I got something really tasty the other day. Something very shiny from the Black Library. Now, what could this possibly be? Well, let's open it up very carefully and find out. Clearly, it's 753 out of a certain number. Let's remove this cat because she's going to be all up in our business if we don't. There we go. Very carefully we must do this. All right. We've got the nice black wrapping. Don't want to break that seal, but might not have much of a choice. Whoa. There we go. The Sons of Selenar. One of the Siege of Terra books. We had, what was it? The Solar War, Lost and the Damned, The First Wall, this book. Then after that, Saturine comes out. So let's take a look around. Nice gold trimmed. Very nice. Smells delicious too. Look at that. Loyalist, traitor. The distinction is irrelevant. They're all sons of the Selenar. And that's hard. That's actually on there. That's actual metal on there. So let's open her up a bit. Take a quick peek. Look at the pretty pictures. This is supposed to be signed too by the author. So let's... Oh, there it is. That is actual pen. Graham McNeill signed 2,500 books. Good on him. Let's look at some of that art. That is some delicious quality paper on there, I'll tell you what. And we like to get the first page on there. There we go. First published. First edition. Oh yeah. I'm going to give this a quick read because I was definitely looking forward to getting my hands on this one. So we'll see what's going to go on in just a few moments. Hey, you're in a box. Oh, you naughty girl. All right, the time has come and so have I. We're cracking open the Sons of Selenar, the Horus Heresy, Siege of Terra. Now there's a bit of fluff before even introduction, and depending on how ambitious we are, let's see if we can get past chapter 1. So here we go. The Horus Heresy, Siege of Terra. It is a time of legend. The galaxy is in flames. The Emperor's glorious vision for humanity is in ruins. His favored son, Horus, has turned from his father's light and embraced chaos. His armies, the mighty and redoubtable Space Marines, are locked in a brutal civil war. Once, these ultimate warriors fought side by side as brothers, protecting the galaxy and bringing mankind back into the Emperor's light. Now they are divided. Some remain loyal to the Emperor, whilst others have sided with the War Master. Preeminent amongst them, the leaders of their 1,000-strong legions, are the Primarchs. Magnificent superhuman beings, they are the crowning achievement of the Emperor's genetic science. Thrust into battle against one another, victory is uncertain for either side. Worlds are burning. At Istvan V, Horus dealt a vicious blow, and 3 loyal legions were all but destroyed. War was begun, a conflict that will engulf all mankind in fire. Treachery and betrayal have upsurged honor and nobility. Assassins lurk in every shadow. Armies are gathering. All must choose a side or die. Horus musters his armada, Terra itself the objective of his wrath. Seated upon the golden throne, the Emperor waits for his wayward son to return, but his true enemy is chaos, a primordial force that seeks to enslave mankind in its capricious whims. the screams of the innocent, the pleas of the righteous resound to the cruel laughter of the dark gods. Suffering and damnation await all should the Emperor fail and the war be lost. The end is here, the skies darken, colossal armies gather for the fate of the throne world, for the fate of mankind itself. The Siege of Terra has begun. Dramatis personae, the Sisfium. Ulrich Branthan, Captain, Iron Hand, 65th Clan Company. Cadmus Tyro, Acting Captain of the Sisfium. Frater Thematica, Iron Wrought, Averni Veteran. Ignatus Newman, Battle Brother. Sabik Wayland, Iron Father. Garuda, Eagle Construct of Ulrich Branthan. Nikona Sherokin, Raven Guard, 66th Company. Atesh Tarsa, Apothecary, Salamanders, 24th Company. The Selenar, Heliosa 54, High Matriarch of Luna Selenar Cults. Talab Vita 37, Gene Witch of the Selenar. The Sons of Horus, Trastavere, Justarian, Captain of the Eyes Watch. Vornak, Justarian Terminator. Urgave, Justarian Terminator. I, for one, know of no sweeter sight for a man's eye than his own country. Amaris, the blind bard of Ionia. A leader is ultimately responsible for everything. The Primarch Gilliman. Loyalist, traitor. The distinction is irrelevant. They are all sons of the Selenar. Talab Vita 37. Prologue. Do not swear by the moon, for she changes constantly. The surface of Terra was burning. Its atmosphere glowed with the fires of unity. Storms of global war raged beneath toxic skies, like the banked embers of a hearth. They bathed the lunar surface in red. Warfare had riven humanity's birthrock for as long as the Selenar could remember, the conflicts growing in scale with every passing epoch, and each unchecked evolution of technology. War has recast the world in its image, said Heliosa 54, the ruddy light of Terra's unification reflecting from the molded surfaces of her chromium mask. It has always been thus, revered matriarch, spat Talab Vita 37, her multi-armed form hunched over the data light of the command console. It is mankind's nature to destroy. The matriarch of the Selenar turned to her most trusted gene maiden, hearing the stress placed on the man of mankind. That is likely true, agreed Heliosa 54, but we too are a branch of that shared root. Yes, we distill the essences of singular genetic paths in search of the perfect aspects of our species, but follow the strands of history far enough back, and we are not so different. She felt Talab Vita 37's urge to challenge that assertion. Her consciously evolved nature as a contrarian and a questioner warring with her respect for Heliosa 54's vaunted archetype. You disagree? I would not presume to, revered matriarch. Not now. Of course you would. It is the archetype you iterate upon with every evolution. Speak freely. Very well, revered matriarch, said Talab Vita 37, pausing to gesture towards the grim situation unfolding in front of them. The Emperor's transhuman warriors are bred to wreak bloody ruin and nothing else. They are capable of nothing else. But we of the Selenar cults, by iterating upon the twin mysteries of the Helix, perform acts of devotion and creation. The gene rights of the Emperor pursue only the science of death, and it is too late for them to change their course. And our sciences? Do we not also craft killing engines of steel and flesh? For the defense of our fiefdoms, yes, Talab Vita 37 conceded. But the Dianic rights bring us closer to the true potential of humanity. Ultimately, they will move us farther from the urge to destroy. I hope that will one day prove to be the case, said Heliosa 54, but do not be so quick to condemn our Terran brothers. In times past, there were moments when the better angels of human nature sought to turn our species from the bloody altars of war to embrace peace. Such times were few and far between, pointed out Talab Vita 37, and they never lasted. As if to reinforce her point, the curve-walled chamber at the heart of the moon shook with the impact of nearby detonations. Gray dust spilled from the cracks in the ceiling. It danced in the suspension field surrounding Heliosa 54's floating, cursive-spined form. Fractal patterns of dust glittered in the astenic light thrown out by the gently spinning gene looms woven into the stone walls. The pneumotubes along Heliosa 54's neck pulsed in time with her frosted breath, crafting a twisting helix at her throat. Why does the Emperor seek to destroy us? Asked Talab Vita 37. The Emperor does not seek to destroy us. Talab Vita 37 extended a curved talon-like fingertip, hooking a disk of noospheric light from the gloss black of the command console and lifting it up between them. A rapidly shrinking noose of red light converged on their location, a silver icon of the crescent moon. Previously muted Vox channel surged with screams of the doomed and dying. The unmistakable bangs of bolter fire and shrieking plasma explosion formed a deafening cacophony of slaughter. All available data suggests otherwise, she said. Warriors of the 7th and 16th Legion are slaughtering everything in their path. Our cults are dying as we speak. The howls of their attackers were a screeching din that scraped the spine. Feral war shouts of men born in the dark and raised on murder. Such men would accept nothing less than the complete destruction of whoever dared stand before them. The Emperor does not seek to destroy us, repeated Heliosa 54. He seeks to yoke us to his great work. Not without some justification. He hopes we fear annihilation more than servitude. His hubris requires our science, our looms, and our mysteries. He knows much, but he does not know everything. Is that why you brought me here? Asked Talab Vita 37. Is that why you still remain? Yes. If the Emperor's killers do not find me here, they will tear Luna apart. Until they do, they will break me, and I will be forced to give them the Magna Mater. Talab Vita 37 flinched at the thought and said, What is it you require of me? Heliosa 54 extended a dexterous needle-like hand, one whose fingertips had crafted gene sequencers of such dizzying complexity that it seemed inconceivable they did not belong to some ancient creator goddess. To forsake me, said Heliosa 54. I do not understand, said Talab Vita 37. Data flowed between them, coiling spirals of light-bearing gene sequences, marker codes, and swaths of information so complex it made Talab Vita 37 gasp at the density of inload. Go below to the ergodic vault. Sever your connections to the Luna manifold. Take the Magna Mater and vanish. I cannot divulge what I do not know. Too few of the High Priestesses remain alive to destroy the Magna Mater, so you must keep it from the Emperor. You understand? I understand, said Talab Vita 37. Heliosa 54 saw Talab Vita 37's shoulders slump. The Gene Maiden already burdened by the terrible duty she had placed upon her. And if they should eventually find me, then pray that he who takes the Magna Mater is a wiser soul and has greater vision than Terra's new master. Talab Vita 7 bowed, clasping her hands across her chest. It shall be as you say, revered matriarch, she said. I will not fail you. Heliosa 54 did not watch her go. Already beginning a mnemonic purge, sadness touched her as precious memories burned away in the fires of synaptic erasure. She had loved Talab Vita 37 as a daughter, but could not allow any trace of the Gene Maiden to be found within her neural network. She turned back to the console. Barely 6 hours had passed since the sudden shocking assault of the brute-crafted Gene warriors from Terra. Every war front on Luna told the same story of defeat. Her heart heavy with fear for the future, the High Matriarch of Luna opened a broad-spectrum Vox channel. She knew the Emperor would hear her. She hoped his warriors would. "Call off your wolves," she begged. Spicy intro, and I'm feeling motivated, so let's see if we can get past Chapter 1. Book 1, Maiden. She is a wild, tangled forest with temples and treasures concealed within. Chapter 1, A Captain Remade, Skeleton Rue, Carnager. How best should a warrior die? He had given much thought to this over the years as a neophyte. He imagined his end would come in a terrible war against some hideous xenoform, fighting side by side with his brothers for a noble and heroic cause. His last moments would come in a battle spoken of in awe by the warriors of ages yet to pass. In the following millennia, lessons learned from his end would be taught in every academy of war. Required reading for the youth of this new age. Libraries of books would be written of that bloody time, but war cares nothing for the arrogant imaginings of young men. Its teachings are bloody and indifferent. Yes, heroes are forged in the crucible of combat, and the legacies of a handful live on in the memories of those who endure. But for every hero whose deeds transcended their deaths, tens of thousands more forgotten or never known at all. Their courage goes unrecorded, their stories are never told. Nikona Sherokin was no longer a neophyte, and ever since Sabak Wayland had dragged his ruined body from the betrayal on Istvan V, he'd known he would die in the dark, alone and unremembered. A fitting end for a warrior of the Raven Guard. How best should a warrior die? In a little over 2 minutes, he'd likely find out. Spots of light flickered like Auspex glitches on the Okare orb of Jupiter, which filled the Sisypheum's view screen. But they weren't glitches. They were burning weapons platforms struck from their orbital anchors and now dragged to destruction by the vast planet's gravity. In the foreground, pyrochemical lighting and ash storms distorted the gun-metal ellipse of Ganymede as its vast hydrostacks burned in the fury of traitor bombardments. The solar war was raging, hot and bright, but drawing inexorably closer to Terra from the outer system planets. The War Master was tightening his noose. But every minute the Loyalists kept the traitors from the throne world's glory was a victory. Dying ships blazed in Jupiter's high orbit, skeletons of blackened metal alight from within. Atomic storms raged in their wakes as millions of megatons of ship-killing ordnance detonated like distant supernovas. Not as distant as Nikona Sherokin would have liked. Swarms of torpedoes flew hot in the void. Macro shells lit up space in blinding explosion. Banks of lasers blinked in collimated lines of actinic brightness. Something detonated off the ventral axis. Sherokin had no idea what it may have been. A torpedo? Warhead? A ship exploding? A hunter-killer mind? 367 ships maneuvered aggressively within the Jovian engagement volume. Escorts and destroyers, mostly. At least 70 vessels of capital displacement also. Sherokin had little skill in coordinating void fights or the operation of a starship, but after the disastrous mission to Lerna 212 and the decimation of the Sisypheum's crew, he had to learn something of the craft. A twisting shape emerged from the screeching static. The waves of interference rippled through the holographic representations of the void brawl, huge and coming right at them. Range markers and ident tags flickered to life. "Tumbling lunar class dead ahead," shouted Sherokin. "I see it," replied Sabak Wayland, spliced into the Sisypheum's multiple helm controls via neuroproxy devices crafted by Frater Thamtica, maneuvering now. Wayland sounded matter-of-fact, but Sherokin had fought besides the warrior of the Iron Hands long enough to hear the strain beneath his outward calm. The bridge deck tilted violently as the Iron Father threw the Sisypheum into a hard, rolling turn. The heavily modified strike cruiser shuddered. Its hull plates buckled, and up-armored bulkheads groaned in protest as the kilometer's long keel flexed. Gravity shifted with the violence of the maneuver, and the proximity alarms brayed. The clashing, discordant shriek of intersecting void shields filled the bridge. Hardwired servitors maintaining shield integrity spasmed as electrical feedback burned them alive from within. Sherokin gagged at the smell of scorched machine oil and flesh. The unimaginable scale of the gutted lunar-class vessel filled the view screen. Sherokin felt himself ducking as its burning superstructure passed over them, so vast it felt like it would never end. So close he felt he could reach the other ship's bridge in one powered leap. Didn't even come close, said Wayland, pulling out of the turn and leaving the doomed ship in their wake as he angled them back to the battle. That warning was too damn late, Sherokin, bellowed Ulrich Brandthan, the newly resurrected captain of the Sisypheum. His voice was a hideous amalgam of ruined human vocal cords and ad hoc augmentations. You're supposed to be tracking the flow of this battle. Do I look like the master of surveyors? Snapped Sherokin. Then step aside and find someone who can read a damn auspex, said Brandthan, his towering form stepping down from the command podium with a booming thud of asymmetrical splay-clawed feet. The captain's body was a nightmarish fusion of flesh and machine, but it bore only a passing resemblance to the honorable chassis of the dreadnought from which its parts had been cannibalized. Rather, he was now a thing of biomechanical horror, wrought by a Tesh Tarsa in a moment of madness and desperation. The ancient relic known as the Heart of Iron was enmeshed in Brandthan's exposed ribs and musculature like a chromium spider beating with a loathsomeness Sherokin could barely stomach. The spoiled meat stink of Brandthan's body and the noxious chemicals keeping his rotten flesh alive reminded Sherokin of his youth, of when he would find milky bloated bodies afloat in the deep salt pools of Lycius. A cyber eagle wrought from pale steel and brass perched at his shoulder. The Iron Hands had named it Garuda, after an ancient Medusan myth, and like the crew of the Sisypheum, it had suffered great hurts, but yet endured. On Idris, it had taken a bolt round from the swordsman Lucius, but Thamatica and Wayland had restored its mechanical life. The surveyor station was awash with flickering ghost images of the absurdly close-range battle. Wayland rolled them around in shuddering wreck of the Glory Hound, a Mars-class warship burning from bow to stern. Booming clangs echoed through the ship's superstructure. Repurposed maintenance servitors at damage control blurted screeds of binaric gibberish. What was that now? Demanded Brandthan. I don't know, said Sherokin. Suicidal bombers or fighter craft with no carrier to return to? Maybe drifting wreckage too small for the auspex to pick up? Not good enough, Ravenguard. Sherokin bit back an angry retort as the display flared with signal bloom. Threat warnings blazed to life across the glowing surface of the slate. Capital vessel coming about on our rearward quarter, he called. Oberon class, I think. The Covenant of Truth. 17th Legion Predator ship, replied Wayland sharply, but it's not coming for us. Dozens of threat runes blinked to life on the view screen. How can you be sure? Barked Brandthan. The crypto, said Wayland, pulling the Sisypheum away from the larger vessel's void wake. It's feeding me the Covenant's encrypted vox. Its captain is communicating with two other ships. They're moving to bracket the Europa's wrath. Shuriken tried to sort the conflicting aspect returns and match what he was seeing to what Wayland was telling him. Are you certain, he asked? Looks to me like the Covenant is maneuvering with a raking barrage across our drive. I don't like ships on my rear, said Branthan. Garuda spread its wings and squawked angrily. It's not coming for us, insisted Wayland. It has a perfect firing position, said Shuriken. Holding course, said Wayland. Throne, damn you, Sambik Wayland, cried Banthan, pounding across the deck towards the Iron Father. For an instant, Shuriken thought he was going to rip Rayland from the helm control. The range counter slowed and extended. Shuriken let out a breath. It's pulling away. I told you the Covenant is hungry to kill the Europa's wrath. The view screen erupted with light as the Covenant of the Truth launched staggered broadsides into its victim. Boxed in by the barrage of two other traitor ships, the Imperial vessel was forced to endure the punishing fire flaying its shields. Torpedo boats and bomber wings flew in close to the Europa's wrath, and wave upon wave of ordnance punched into the Titanic warship's hull. Secondary boosters thrust warheads further into the larger ship before the late-action fuses detonated them deep in its vitals. A rippling wave traveled the length of the vessel as explosion raced through its internal compartments, tearing it apart from the inside. Swirling conflagrations erupted from the wrath's many wounds, burning white-hot with pure oxygen and the chemical fire of its blood. Shuriken felt his heart clamped by an icy fist as he watched the majestic ship die. Like the last of a species finally brought to extinction, it fought to the end, but its doom was assured. The rad wash of its murder fouled every sensory turn. But Shuriken saw rampant cascades of high-band atomics flaring deep in its inganarium. That could only mean one thing. She's going critical, shouted Shuriken. Get us clear, Wayland. Belay that, ordered Branthan. Get us closer. What? Shouted Shadowskin. No, you'll kill us all. He took half a step towards Branthan. Remain at your post, barked the monstrous captain of the Iron Hand. Wayland, no, shouted Shuriken. It's suicide to be anywhere near that ship. Bring us around, said Branthan. The Covenant of Truth shields are down. Vector a course directly towards the bridge. Shadowskin, get me a firing solution right now. Wayland, get us out of here, pleaded Shadowkin. He'll kill us all for the sake of vengeance. Branthan spun around, murderously swift for something so hulking. A power fist ripped from the chassis of the fallen brother Bombastus slammed into Shuriken's chest. He flew backwards, twisting in the air to land in a crouched skid across the desk. Muscle memory made his hand fly to his hip where his black-bladed gladius was sheathed. He looked up to see Garuda perched on the edge of the auspex table, its head cocked to the side as it regarded him with its unblinking eyes. Was it just his imagination, or did a bird shake its head? Shuriken let out a breath as Garuda took flight and returned to Branthan's shoulder. The deck shuddered as the Sisypheum fired its prow bombardment cannon at point-blank range. The Covenant of Truth's close-in defense system had no time to react. The city-leveling ordnance impacted on its command deck with devastating effect. An Oberon-class battleship was a monstrously powerful ship of the line, heavily armored and bristling with weapon systems, but without shields it was vulnerable. The Sisypheum shells punched deep into the nexus of its command center, gouging mortal wounds into its brain. Plumes of fire and blossoming clouds of molten steel vented into space. The Sisypheum flew through the expanding clouds of superheated vapor and cascades of wreckage, chased by a storm of hastily aimed lasfire and burst shells from anti-torpedo frag launchers. Branthan turned from Shuriken, Garuda once again at his shoulder. Hard turn, bring us back around, said Branthan. I want to finish this bastard off. It's already out of the fight, said Shadowkin. I don't want it out of the fight, snapped Branthan. I want it dead. The Sisypheum shuddered as Wayland put the ship into a tight corkscrewing turn to starboard. He angled a prow down to obscure their course in the blazing plasma wake of the wounded battleship. Thematica, barked Wayland over the Vox. I'm going to need those reactors burning hotter. The Vox crackled with a blurt and angry binary code before Thematica answered from the Inganarium. I assure you, Iron Father, it is taking everything I have to simply keep the reactors from overloading and killing us all. I can only do so much with barely a handful of menial servitors assisting me. Do what you can, Iron Rot, said Wayland, snapping off the Vox. Nicona. Sherokin didn't answer, his gaze fixed on Ulrich Branthan's back. He realized a breath he'd been holding, feeling a sharp pain in his ribs. He relaxed his white-knuckled grip on his gladius, understanding that he had been on the verge of unleashing lethal violence on a fellow legionary. An insane fellow legionary, yes, but one whose loyalty was still given to the Emperor. Nicona, said Wayland, his voice calm but authoritative, I need eyes in this fight. Return to your station, brother. Sherokin nodded slowly and sheathed his blade. The void was burning with innumerable atomic flare storms, pulling tsunamis of EMAG surges and the detonation echoes of the Covenant's magazine stores. Situational awareness was next to impossible to determine. Even an Auspex savant or an officer with decades of experience would likely divine nothing from this sensory anarchy. Coming about, said Wayland, matter-of-factly, as if announcing mundane orbital maneuvers. Gun deck, how long till the bombardment cannon is back online? The pained voice of Atesh Tarsa, the salamander's apothecary, echoed through the bridge. Newman's working on it, but it will be at least 7 minutes before the weapon is ready to fire. Every part of the reloading process has to be done manually. Wayland cut the link, then said, broadside it is, then. A discordant wailing cut over the Vox bands as Sherokin winced at the torment he had heard in the nightmarish howls. Part binary code, part demonic cant. In its purest form, the Mechanicum called it scrap code. It was the Cryptos, a screaming from its below-deck cell. Not a warning, a shriek of terror. Brace, 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 yelled Wayland. Sherokin saw it a second later, a tapered prow knifing through the void, vectoring in at the perfect kill angle, murder torpedoes already loose, stabbing lasers stripping away the last of the Sisypheum shields. The ship screamed over the Vox, tearing through the Sisypheum security protocols with the visceral trauma of its name. Carnager, Carnager, Carnager. White-hot beams of light seared through the strike cruiser's many decks, the relative movement of the two vessels causing them to whipsaw through its reinforced superstructure. Hundreds of meters of hull plate peeled away like meat pared from the bone by a butcher's knife. The force of entire sections venting explosively into the hard vacuum heeled the ship over like a pugilist rocked back on their heels. The Auspex screamed with incoming ordnance. The blood-red light of a mortal wound filled the bridge. It painted Brantham in demonic glow. You killed us all, hissed Sherokin. Then the world turned inside out, and red light turned to white. Well, that was certainly action-packed. This book actually, despite its beauty, isn't that long. It's only about 183 pages, so I can whip this out in probably a few days. So, let's see what we can get tomorrow.